Like we gotta get this down to science,
We're,
baby.
we're, we're working on it.
That's
Well,
the way it
uh,
is.
hello, everyone. From IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, this is The Lawyer's Den. This unique broadcast brings you in-depth discussions with American legal scholars to discuss the current issues facing our nation. I'm Bill Tresvant, and along with my esteemed Southern colleague, Nick Palavita, we are your co-hosts. So, Nick, will you once again please do the honors of introducing our guests?
I certainly will, Bill. And hailing from Salt Lake City, a JDLM attorney who specializes in this area, we're going to welcome to the Lawyer's Den my friend and favorite, Jeff Tykert from the great Lake of Salt. But not to be outdone or out as a professor in the legal area, hailing from Georgia after he went to, I guess, University of Southern California, Ohio State, and received his LLM from NYU, Adam Lamparello. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Nick, we have a
yeah, we have more. Okay, adding flavor to this esteemed group of colleagues, we have a professor at the Great Northeastern University, also in private practice, who actually does things as well as teach. We want to bring in another JDLM attorney from the University of Florida. We have Beckett Cantley. Welcome to the show. Now he missed a couple days because of surgery, but he's back in the lineup today. So with his Dodgers uniform on top of it, what gives here? What?
Dodgers, baby. Dodgers. 1 game away tonight.
1 game away, right? Okay. So the thing is, for the people that grew up in Tampa, like yours truly, we're a big Dodgers fan. Excuse me. like not. You know,
well, there's also the chance that after surgery you've got to wear something loose fitting. So there you go.
Oh, okay, right. Well, I don't know if you got briefed by the den master, my co-host Bill Trezevant, but he always sends these legal issues out like, hey, we have time to read them, brief them, give opinions on them. And of course, I learned from the great Don, just shoot from the hip. Who cares? Go on, Bill. Well, what do we got for the den?
Actually,
hey, are you guys? I'm sorry, I'm having. It's breaking up, Nick. When you're speaking, is anybody else having that issue, or is it just me?
No, actually, let's try this. Here, Nick, try speaking again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I'm fine. It says the host keeps muting my microphone. It has nothing to do with the technology. It's that guy over there keeps muting my microphone. He's a pretty smart guy.
Okay.
Listen. Okay. Well, Beckett, we're going to start off with a real easy one for you, because then we'll get into the briefing of the cases. And so for tonight's Lawyer's Den, in honor of the elevation of Justice Barrett to the Supreme Court, did you have any thoughts on her elevation, the timing, the process, what it may mean as you see it? Oh,
he disappeared.
I guess that first question was too tough for him, Nick.
That was a tough question.
I mean, I guess.
Wait a minute. Technology is working again. By the way, he's almost here. He is computer isn't.
Okay. No, then let's we'll bring him back right in soon enough.
Oh, that was soon enough.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay. Did you hear the question, Beckett?
It's I believe the problem's on our end.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Would you like me to repeat the question?
I believe the problem is on our end, the Wi-Fi.
Okay. Well, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear us?
Right.
Okay. Well, coming off the bench.
Yeah, you guys are just coming in a little choppy. I'll do the best.
Okay. Jeff, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I have a few.
Sorry, guys.
One of I guess it seems like a more obvious point to me is that if Donald Trump loses the election here in early November, he will be one of the most consequential one-term presidents ever, having had 3 Supreme Court picks. A lot of presidents that have had 2 terms have not had 3 picks. So a number of presidents, starting with Eisenhower, I think, said that the most important single thing they did as president was nominating justices to the Supreme Court, and Trump has had three of those. I think, this particular seat, people would say ideologically is a flip. Scalia, he appointed Gorsuch. That's sort of a wash, except Gorsuch is a lot younger and can serve for a long time. Then he appoints Kavanaugh to take the place of Justice Kennedy. May be a little bit of a quote unquote rightward shift there, but Kennedy wanted to be replaced by a Republican president. But with Justice Ginsburg's seat flipping to the appointee of the party, that's a very significant possible shift in the direction the court is going, and an originalist shift. So I love this nomination. I still question how they went about it and the way they broke their word about what they were going to do, but I love the pick. So that's my thought at this point.
Okay, Professor Lamparello, isn't it true that everything that Jeff said is really not as important as the other stuff that Trump has done with the judiciary, having appointed, forget the three justices, having appointed nearly 1/3 of the entire federal bench to all of the lower levels? Isn't that more important for the future of jurisprudence rather than justices on the Supreme Court? I'm sorry, go right ahead, Professor.
Well, I think it's equally important. I think one of the great things that's happened is that the Ninth Circuit has become far more balanced. And regarding the Supreme Court, I think this is a wonderful day for originalists, and therefore a wonderful day for the Constitution and for the people, because hopefully we're never going to hear phrases like liberty finds no refuge in a jurisprudence of doubt, as stated in Planned Parenthood, or the Constitution extends liberty to everyone within its reach, as we heard in Obergefell, or people have the right to define the mysteries of human life, as we heard in Lawrence versus Texas. That's not constitutional law. It never was, and it delegitimized the court. Hopefully, they will interpret the text as it was intended, and they will be more democratic, and they will defer to the democratic process.
Okay, Nick, you have a tall order here, because not only did he just once again bring up Roe v. Wade, because he can't seem to talk about anything else, okay? He has turned around and he has almost pushed us down this rabbit hole again. If we don't fight, wins. And if we do fight, we've lost the show. As a voice of reason, can you help us rescue this vote?
Oh, the vote, well, nobody here is going to have a vote. You have to imagine the vote will be taken by the people. And if the Democrats get the trifecta, the presidency, the Senate, and the House, you can kiss this judiciary goodbye, baby, because that court will expand, and rightfully so. They'll add a couple more justices, bring back Merrick Garland, who was illegitimately thrown off by Mitch McConnell, bring him back, add one more, create the Mitch Garland Equity Act of 2021. Watch. That's what's going to happen to the trifecta. And Biden and the Democrats will say, we have a mandate to do that by the people, and watch the court expand. And then we can get off the fact that Trump's going to rule for 48 years with Amy Coney Barrett. Forget it, baby. It's over.
Okay, but Beckett, will we once again, under those circumstances, hear the sweet lull of the language, such as, I find within the collective wisdom of the words of the Constitution, guarded by the penumbras, these rights to be self-evident, or at least eternally springing? Will we have such flowery language again once Nick has his way with our federal judiciary?
Okay, so a lot of that broke up, but I think I understand the drift of where you guys are.
Okay.
I think, I don't know. First of all, I don't know that it's a sure thing in any form or fashion that they're going to get all three branches. I mean, get the Senate and the presidency. They kind of go lockstep to a degree, but if Trump gets close enough, you might end up saving the Senate. I also agree. I also took to heart what Bill said last week about the idea that they may not operate as severely on all those fronts as they originally as they kind of trumpet. A lot of that may be driving progressive voters to come out to the polls. I'm not sure that all of that is going to happen. I do see how they're laying the groundwork for it, as Nick is saying, but I don't know that that's exactly what they're going to do. I'm very interested to hear if Bill has any update on that. They may wait. They may try to get the early stuff done that you would think they would do legislatively, as Bill was talking about, and then I would say wait for a decision that comes down that they find specific, extremely counter to their base, and then look at it. What do you think, Bill?
Okay, well, I mean, I know what I think, but more importantly, I know what I do. As a mercenary on the Democratic side, this is what I would do. I would push through infrastructure. I would push through a stimulus. And while I've got everybody working and shopping and, wearing their masks, I then sit around and I in the Merrick Garland. And then I would do all the other stuff behind the scenes that accomplish the progressive agenda. I would break up any company that I could, or I'd put people on it. But I figured the American people wouldn't be watching it because they'd be too busy either working again or finding the vaccine or whatever it is. So I distract them with all that, put them all back to work, send them home with money, say that I'm, rescuing America, whatever it is. And then behind the scenes, I do everything exactly as the way Mitch McConnell did. And I think that's what the Democrats are thinking.
Get everything done, get the mass, kind of the Obama mass action plan. Get so much going at once that people can't pay attention to everything.
Robert, I have so much, but when are we going to lay it to rest and leave Obama alone? He served 8 years. I mean, he got at rest, right? It can't be his fault. And it's Oh, okay. Well, here, Nick, do you have any final thoughts on Justice Barrett?
Yeah, Justice Barrett. She's definitely qualified, and I'm glad she's going to sit on the bench. But mark my word, young man, a blue wave, excuse me, as Winston Churchill said, a blue curtain is going to be coming across America as they take the Senate, the House, and the presidency. And when that blue curtain falls over America, the red people like you, Bill, are going to wallow in the fact that we're going to see reform from the Judiciary Act of 1789, the Judiciary Act of 1837, the Judiciary Act of 1862, and the new Judiciary Act of 2021, adding people to the bench. And that's what we're going to see, as Winston Churchill will say, the blue curtain will arrive.
Not
7 days, baby. Get ready for the blue curtain.
Not so fast, my dear humble friend. Because I have my good friend Jeff, who is about to school you. Mm-hmm. And that is this. And any expansion of the Supreme Court will undoubtedly be challenged. And where will it go? It will go to the current Constitution, the current Supreme Court, as constituted with a 6-3 conservative majority. And Jeff, would you like to inform Nick how the current court of 6-3 conservatives are going to rule on his expansionary policies of the Supreme Court?
Well, I don't think they can find it unconstitutional because Congress has the right to add justices to the Supreme Court if it wants to. I'm opposed to that as a matter of policy. I think it would further politicize the court. I also think that we've had a stable number of 9 justices for over a century, and it's by and large worked well. It's enough that each justice can have a voice, and but not so few that we don't have a diversity of legal thought and opinion. So I don't want to see the court packing thing take place. In terms of Nick's predictions, I mean, it may be a blue wave. I don't know. Trump was ahead by a point or two in the Rasmussen polls yesterday. Today, he's behind by a point or two. People said in 2016 that he had to pull an inside straight to win, and that's exactly what he did. The thing that I'm seeing right now is that Trump voters are a lot more enthusiastic than Biden voters. Joe Biden excites absolutely no one. He's not going to drive turnout. So if Trump gets within a couple of points, he may pull another inside straight and surprise everybody again. So I mean, I'm not saying that will happen, but I think there's a reasonable chance given how close the polls are right now. But yeah, one way or the other, I don't want to see the Democrats try to pack the court. I would want the Republicans to try to pack the court. I just think that would further politicize the judiciary and the Supreme Court, and I don't want to see that.
Okay, Adam, do you reach the same conclusion as your colleague Jeff?
I agree with everything that Jeff said, and I really am looking forward to the death of substantive due process. I'm looking forward to putting those penumbras in, as Justice Brennan said in the death penalty case, the graveyard of the forgotten past. And what I would tell to the ideologically obsessed left is you have a remedy through the legislature for every policy that you want to implement. It's not through the courts. Living constitutionalism is not consistent with the Constitution's text or democracy. So let's start looking at the legislature at the state and federal level to, effectuate the change that you want.
Oh, my heart is broken upon the shores of America. I guess I'm not winning that argument. Becca, do you have any thoughts? Nick, do you guys have any thoughts? Because I'm now out by 4 LLMs.
Absolutely. I agree. There's a legislative solution, just like Adam said, and that's the Judiciary Act of 2021, expanding the court, getting equity on the court, getting Merrick Garland back. Yes, you're right, Adam. Legislatures rule, and when the blue wave takes place, watch the legislature change, and we have a Judiciary Act, and we're going to expand that court to 11 and flatten what just happened by Donald R., or whatever he calls himself, J. Trump.
Okay, well, listen, do you think that there's a... hang on, I know I almost dropped the mic for Nick. I mean, this is one of these historic moments. Tonight, must be the end of October or something. Listen, do you think that there's a chance that if the progressives, much to the horror of Beckett, actually become the dominant moving legislative force of Congress, that it will actually tempt the conservative justices off their pedestal of we're not activists, right back into the fray where they have to become activists because they feel like they must save the democracy? Do you think the progressives could provoke the conservatives on the court that far to engage in such a behavior? Beckett, what do you think?
That's fascinating. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, different conservatives look at it different ways, right? I mean, you've got Thomas, and likely Barrett, firmly in the strict constructionist camp, which I just don't see them moving. I mean, I really don't. But you got Roberts, who might try to establish some kind of quasi-conservative, quasi-liberal middle ground thing that allows to move things in response, because Roberts' biggest deal has always been protecting the integrity, as he perceives it, of the court. And expanding it is not going to be to his liking, I'd imagine. Much less entering the fray into a bunch of things that he needs that are legislative in nature. But if the court's going to be destroyed as a result of not doing it, he may.
Okay. Well, actually, as a side question, it's merely just like I can't help myself, but I read those magazines when I walk through the checkout thing, the ones that say Michael Jackson was a alien. I guess this: do we place any substance whatsoever in the notion that Clarence Thomas was the justice that swore in Justice Beckett? Is it a sign of the apocalypse? Right? Is it a sign of the apocalypse, or is it merely just judicial tradition?
You became a justice, Beckett.
I just heard that.
Right.
Yes.
Justice Barrett. Okay.
I nominate Barrett in my place, but thank
Right.
you.
I'm sorry about that.
Well, they're friends, right? I mean, she clerked for Scalia and Thomas are close. They're potentially, closed. I don't know. The other thing was they were moving that voting rights case, like 30 minutes before they voted on it, right? I mean, Roberts got that in under the wire.
Yes, he did.
I've seen two different, explanations for that are interesting. No one knows for sure, obviously, but one is that they didn't want to delay it, and her stepping on the court would, require that she be a part of that consideration, which could delay the decision on it. And the other is that perhaps Roberts might want to send a message that, if she comes on the court, that they're still going to decide voting decisions, with a certain pattern. I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to read the tea leaves with Roberts, isn't it?
Okay, but listen, hang on. Forget. Let's just move away from Roberts for now, because he's always getting all the attention. I want to go to Clarence Thomas. And listen, he's been silent for so long on the Supreme Court, and I think he's been waiting for this day. And now he has his moment, and that's why he wanted to be the one to swear her in. And now, isn't that a mark of his soon-to-be preeminent dominance?
Yeah,
speaking from the court.
Yeah, I actually heard on one of the networks last night say that they're starting to refer to the court as the Thomas Court. So, which that's inside Washington baseball to me, but it's still very telling. I said that he would be the intellectual center, I guess, of the new of at least 5 votes on the court, which is really interesting if you look at it from a historical perspective of how he got. Everything that happened when, how he was kind of, whatever conservatism he was feeling towards his positions as a justice pre getting on the Supreme Court. The trial by fire he went through sure seemed to emblazon that on as a permanent, very ideological voice, eh?
Okay, well then fine. And thank you for that, because that leads me right into some of the juicy stuff. How are the originalists on the court going to accept Thomas as the center of political thought when he espouses an entirely different view of interpreting the Constitution? We're going to start with you, Adam.
Well, the first thing I'd say is that an originalist court is a great court and the most democratic court, because we're not going to see judicial overreach and usurpation of the democratic process. Having said that, I think it's less predictable than people think. I'm not so sure that Gorsuch is always going to be in the conservative majority. I'm not so sure that Kavanaugh is always going to be in the conservative majority. And as far as Chief Justice Roberts goes, he of all people has so hopelessly politicized the court with his decisions, beginning in National Federation of Independent Investors versus Sebelius, when he found that the individual mandate was a tax. Clearly, he is not basing decisions on any reasonable interpretation of the text in some cases, but rather on political considerations. So I find it ironic that his sole interest or his primary interest in preserving the court's institutional legitimacy and making it apolitical has led to precisely, in my view, the opposite result.
Well, that's you, and then Nick, I'm going to need you to make sense of all of this. Yeah.
Sense out of nonsense? Is that what you're saying? Of course, I'm a Roberts fan. Unlike my esteemed, yes.
No, I'm giving you a moment to think about it. But Jeff,
I don't need a moment to think. I'm a Roberts fan. He's very pragmatic. In other words, the thing is, as soon as we add those 2 more justices, which will happen next year when the blue wave comes crashing down, and Trump spends the next 2 months giving a big Twitter. Can you imagine the next 2 months are going to be horrible? His temper tantrums on Twitter as they kick his rear out are just going to be astronomical, off the charts. But neither here nor there. He'll be gone and he'll be history. And why sits in the history books? We're going to add 2 more people to support. So you can dream about Clarence Thomas being the leading intellectual on the court, but this is all going to be restored, my friend, by the end of 2021, if not sooner, when Biden goes, we're adding 2 more guys, whack, it's over. And then Justice Roberts, who's pragmatic as opposed to living in the 17th century, oh, we got this document we did 200 years ago. It's got to be correct today. There's no tech guy in the world who would want to use technology that's 200 years old, except lawyers, because they believe it's 200 years old. It's got to be better. And it isn't. So the thing is, what you're going to see is a major change finally in the court. And you're going to upgrade this court and not keep it downgraded as it sits today.
Okay, Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick.
Jeff,
hey. What do you think the chances are of Clarence Thomas becoming the intellectual center of the Supreme Court?
Well, honestly, that's my dream. I love Clarence Thomas. Now I'll tell you why. Number one, he doesn't think an opinion has to be 200 pages long to be good and persuasive. He likes to quote Abraham Lincoln saying, "I would have written you a longer letter, or a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time." And he says, we edit. We cut our opinions down. Statistically, his opinions are the shortest on the court, and they tend to be beautifully written and easy to read. So I like that. Secondly, he is not afraid to dissent 8-1 when he feels he's right. And I've seen him do it and agreed with him on occasions. For example, there was a time back in the 90s when a case came before the court. Is it cruel and unusual punishment for a prison guard to beat up a prisoner? And 8 of the justices said, yep, that's cruel and unusual punishment. Thomas said, it's certainly tortious, it's certainly illegal, but it's not unconstitutional, and there's not a remedy for everything we don't like in the Constitution. He said, a punishment is something handed down by a court as part of the sentence, and the court did not sentence this guy to be beaten up by prison guards. So sue them for assault, but don't sue them under the Constitution. And I was like, bravo, Clarence, you're my guy.
That was a really extreme case. That wasn't just a beating. Like that case involved strapping him down and smacking, breaking his feet, and I mean all kinds of crazy stuff. I remember reading that one back when I was in law school, and I just went, whoa. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
Anyway, I thought it was certainly tortious. They could sue for battery, but I didn't think they had a remedy under the Constitution for that. And I thought that the 8 justices that would expand cruel and unusual punishment to include unauthorized acts by prison guards to be beyond what was envisioned under the 8th Amendment. So I think Thomas is an original thinker. I like his originalist point of view, and I would like to see him become the intellectual leader of the originalist part of the court.
Okay. Nick, can I join your team and can we expand the court?
Oh, well, it's going to happen. I don't know why you guys are sitting even bothering debating this. Okay, when the blue wave hits this week, well, hey, we're a week away from this. When the blue wave hits and the Twitter accounts go crazy, which will take place in about 2 weeks from now,
right,
then you're going to see this happen. Now, Joe's being real cool. Hey, we're going to create a bipartisan group to figure it out. Baloney, baby. Okay, the minute this hits, it's over. They take the Senate. You can forget this court. You can forget this Thomas being the intellectual leader. It's all history. Now, in the meantime, my friend Jeff can sit and dream about it. He can have dreams all night about it. But let me tell you something. Those dreams are going to come to a big screeching halt in about 1 week. So it is over, and we need to move on. And the court, and it's all going to change.
Okay, speaking of moving on, and this falls under, I guess, everything on everybody's bucket list. So while the Democrats are making their bucket list in anticipation of a blue curtain or a blue wave, depending whether or not you're talking to Nick or Winston Churchill, the Republicans and the Republican leaners are obviously looking to get whatever they need to get done before Trump leaves office and his Justice Department. Now, wouldn't that include Walmart and Trump's buddies going in and suing the federal government preemptively to cut off any chance of liability with this entire OxyContin drug pushing, peddling, white collar fiasco? Nick?
That's the nuttiest case I've ever seen. I mean, I was going like, wow, it's a lawyer's dream and a world's nightmare.
First, Nick, you got to explain to our audience what's going on.
Well, Walmart did a preemptive lawsuit. I mean, can you imagine a preemptive strike? If this starts being allowed, then people are going to sue based on what they think other people are going to do to them. Not that it happened. They believe they're delusional. Walmart's delusional.
Okay.
They believe that the Department of Justice is going to do something, so I got to sue them before they sue me. Come on.
All right, wait, time out.
Come on, Walmart, wake up.
Okay,
go back to Bentonville, baby. Go back to Bentonville.
I will represent the just dumb amongst us, and first I'm going to put it in because these LLMs, they're just way down the path for us. And this is what's going on. So Purdue Pharma, they came up with the drug Oxycontin, and then they essentially through a whole bunch of illicit contracts, just bad stuff. They poisoned Americans all over the place, and then the doctors were writing prescriptions and everything else. But it turns out that the pharmacies that were filling all these prescriptions, ostensibly because they were ordered by the doctors, included the Walmart pharmacies. And so the theory has been out there that because the Walmart pharmacies had been, and their doctors been filling these prescriptions over a period of time, and in some cases it was outrageous. Like there was one town that only had 5,000 people, but they prescribed over 186,000 pills. I don't know what the residents of that county felt like, but they must have really felt good. So Walmart was facing this notion that they might be derivatively liable as part of conspiracy or turning their blind eye, and they might be facing some liability. So rather than wait for the Justice Department to sue them, Walmart turned around and sued the United States government in anticipation of being found or charged with criminal activity. That's why it's called an anticipatory lawsuit, and they're seeking a declarative judgment from a judge saying that they are not responsible in any way, shape, or form. Now, Nick, I'm going to come back to you because now it'll make sense. However, I guess the theory here is that everybody knows that the Republican Justice Department is out and that Walmart, their buddies, are doing this because they will probably get more favorable terms of surrender from a Republican Justice Department under Bill Barr than they would under a Democratic Attorney General. Nick, you want to start again, and then we're going to go to Jeff. And we're going to go around the horn because doesn't this stink of a swamp deal?
No, it's as Bill Gates said, but he's in technology. His dad was a lawyer. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. You know, in other words, anticipatory. I believe that the city of Raleigh is going to do something bad to me, so I'm going to go sue them. I believe something's bad going to happen to me, and I'm going to sue them. The government didn't make them, didn't file a suit. I mean, come on. Do they have nothing better to do than pay lawyers to sue based on what they think the government's going to do? Not what they did, but what they think the government. If you had to keep second guessing the government, you're going to be in court all the time. And Walmart doesn't care because they got plenty of money, I guess. And they're suing. If I was the judge, I would send those lawyers in Walmart out on a rail with a contempt motion granted for sending such a ridiculous suit in front of me.
Okay, Jeff.
I will admit, doing my show prep on this particular issue, I could not stop laughing. It was kind of like the O.J. Simpson book. I didn't do it, but if I did, here's how it happened. I think what really is going on here is Walmart saw what happened to the big tobacco companies years ago when they got sued by various states and paid out huge amounts of money in settlement, and they're trying to get out ahead of it and say, you know, really this is the federal government's fault, and they're trying to scapegoat us, and we're not having it. But I think Nick is probably right that trying to come and get a declaratory judgment saying I didn't do what I think you're going to accuse me of. I don't know. It's something out of Minority Report, you know, like you're about to commit a crime, so we're going to throw you in jail before you do it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, and now Adam, we're coming to you, but I'm going to add a bit of a twist based on your prior testimony in this den, and that is this: you were a proponent of advisory opinions under the reforms of the court. Isn't this declaratory preemptive suit against the United States government nothing more than an advisory opinion that Walmart is politely asking the United States government to do so as to be relieved of perhaps billions of dollars of liability? Something that you would support. It's an advisory opinion, Professor.
I would absolutely support it, and I would absolutely support advisory opinions. I believe in efficient litigation. They're going to get sued. They're going to be in court for God knows how many years, and lawyers are going to make millions and millions of dollars. But you know what an advisory opinion does? It gives us an opportunity to resolve it right away. And here's how it should be resolved. Walmart should not be held liable at all.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you have it. You have the consideration. He would allow he would allow it, and but then he would rule against it. Professor Cantley.
Yeah, the only other element I could add to what you guys are saying is that it gave it an opportunity to frame the issue, you know, in the public eye, and maybe throw the Justice Department a little bit off its game. But I agree with everybody else. It's kind of a head scratcher as to, you know, that O.J. Simpson book reference was really on the nose. You know, if I didn't do it, but yeah, I mean, that's awesome. So, but yeah, I think I think a big chunk of that is a PR, try to frame the issue thing, and you know, tamper with public sentiment a little.
Well, you know, actually, I agree with whichever lawyer came up with the strategy. Absolutely, sue them now with an administration on favorable terms with you, because you've got 3.5 years of money invested into whatever it is, and then reach a quick settlement just before January 20th, and then call it a win and declare it and move right on. And
do you think that's possible? I mean, that would be like the world's quickest settlement in the middle of all the bedlam.
Okay. No, fair enough. And I'm not above reproach here or the law, not like our current president, but that is this. It's simply, do you think it's so beyond the pale when this is the very same Justice Department that turned around and, suddenly dropped the entire case of all of these charges against a former national security advisor? Charges that he had pled guilty to. But lo and behold, they woke up one day, and after, all these years, suddenly, we made a mistake. We're dropping all the charges. That's the Justice Department we have. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say to the Justice Department, well, you're right. We don't want to oppress Walmart. Let's reach a settlement on this and then have it all tied up and delivered before the end of the year. Nick?
Yeah, awesome.
By the way, that's possible. It actually happened in the U.S. Chamber of Commerce versus the United States dealing with the fiduciary rule, where they just dropped and walked away. So it's possible that they're doing this preemptory strike because somebody who's in the DOJ at the lower levels was giving them a rough ration, and they needed to move it up to old Billy Barr. So they filed the suit to get Billy Barr to give us a favorable way out. In other words, it was a political suit. But if I was a judge, this is where my esteemed counsel Jeff and I both agree. I'd toss these guys out, even though I agree with Adam that the Department of Justice doesn't have a suit if they did sue. I think what they're looking to do, Bill, is not become another Purdue Pharmacy, which filed bankruptcy, as we well know, but allowed the founders of Purdue, who sold a lot of OxyContin, to walk away with $10 billion. So the Walmart family has more than 10 billion, so they want to walk away with more than that, and so they did this. But they just want to avoid being a Purdue Pharmacy. But after reading the complaint, I actually agree with Adam. I mean, the pharmacists are there to listen to what the medical doctors tell them to prescribe. They're not there to practice medicine. So
no. This is where for once I think we have a sharp disagreement that is not inspired by ratings, of which I have none, Nick.
That's true. You're being beat by your Merrillwood, but that's another story. It's just another show on IBM TV. Don't worry.
No, it's a shameless plug. Nevertheless, the issue, though, is that the pharmacist, if the same pharmacist in a small town has been filling the same prescription for the same person at 100 pills, every 3 days, the pharmacist has an affirmative obligation, at least under their ethics, to ask, hey, what's going on? I mean, you see it all the time. Pharmacists, are supposed to step in when they see drugs that have adverse interaction with each other because they have a higher purpose or a higher calling and duty to protect the public. And so when they didn't do that, it seems to me that there was a duty of care. Let's go back to the basics, LLMs. There was a duty of care, okay? And there was a breach of that duty. And then there was harm, and it was the breach of the duty that was the proximate cause of the harm. It seems to me that is a clear-cut case that we learn in all first-year tort classes.
Yeah, yes, and under your analysis, you would say that the paralegal should be telling the lawyer how to practice law because they believe that the way you're doing the law was incorrect. Sorry, counselor, it doesn't work that way. The lawyer rules and also the doctors rule when they issue those prescription. But what's weird about this case is they could have filed an answer to a complaint. Remember, the complaint doesn't exist. They have plenty of time to do counterclaims. They have plenty of time to do discovery. Why did they do a preemptive strike other than political? I can't see it, but if I was a judge, I would agree with Professor Tykert. Or Jeff Tykert. I'd toss them out. Goodbye. Next case. We got good business before the court, not what people think other people are thinking about. Come on.
Okay. Do we want to take a vote on how that should go, or are we pretty clear on this body that it should not? Sorry. Okay. No. How many people say no to allowing the preemptive strike? 1, 2, 3. No, Adam. So you would allow it, but throw it out, right?
I would allow it, and again, I know it's a radical idea, but I think the notion of advisory opinions is a great way to make the system more efficient, and I would probably allow it, and I would probably even entertain it. And I think that this notion that you always have to have so much discovery, there's all these factual issues. A lot of times that's not really the case. So yeah, you could resolve it here. And how it should be resolved is Walmart should not be held liable for anything. I mean, this reminds me of the story of actually my favorite person in the world, Elvis Presley, who is my favorite singer. His physician prescribed an inordinate amount of prescriptions during the final year of his life, 1977. The idea of holding the pharmacist liable, unless they violated some clearly established rule or regulation regarding, say, early refills or not monitoring properly the quality of the doctors. I mean, you can't ask them to interfere in the doctor-patient relationship. Walmart's a scapegoat. They should have no liability, and it should be over.
Okay, well, I think, Adam, once again, I was ready to agree with you until you went too far. And every single time you take that extra step, it just everything falls apart because they prosecuted and threw in jail Michael Jackson's doctor for doing exactly the same thing. Now, that happened in the case. I was so ready to concur. One day I will find agreement on this.
But dude, think about it. They go after the doctor, not the pharmacist. Why didn't they go after the pharmacist from Michael Jackson? Hello? They didn't, did they? They went after the doctor. Correct.
LLMs, who needs them?
Okay, so the thing is, if you go after the doctor, I would agree, counselor. You go after the pharmacist, that's a guy who's filling an order. Why don't they go after the clerk who checked them out at Walmart? They should have known that there's too many pills. I'm the clerk. Oh, you're having 300 pills today. I'm guilty. Oh my Lord, I better make a call on this. Come on, when do we stop? Why don't you go to the Walmart greeter? They're greeting him on the way out the door. Oh, I see you have too many pills. You're liable because you didn't look at all the pills, did you, Walmart greeter? Stop it. Come on, Bill.
This is a rough crowd tonight. Okay,
rough crowd. It's a rough crowd every night in the den.
Yes, it is.
It's not gonna get any better.
Okay, gentlemen, we eventually do have to eat our vegetables, and so we're gonna slowly wade into these waters, and we're gonna begin. And I'm just gonna add, the subject is gonna be voting cases. You know, whose ballots get counted? When do they get counted? Why aren't they counted? Are they in one envelope? Are they in two envelopes? Are they in a pink envelope, a blue envelope? Okay, was it done in the morning? Was it done in the evening? These cases are rapidly making their way up into the Supreme Court. Now, up till now, we mentioned it the other day, the Supreme Court has what they call what's commonly referred to as the shadow docket, where they're making these decisions because often these questions arise and applications are made for immediate relief. Like, can we get this done tomorrow, get a stay, stop it, allow it, whatever it is, because of the exigencies of the circumstances, just meaning we got to put a rush on it. But these cases are coming. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the tenor of the group before we find ourselves down in the weeds on judicial voting. Nick, do you generally prefer more access to voting or less? Nick?
Well, the thing I see in the state of Washington, where Jeff and I used to live, we voted by mail all the time. It was no big deal, and there wasn't any of these voting cases. But here's the way I see it: is we know there's a blue wave coming. Look, Bill, those people aren't standing in line for hours because they're happy with how things are going on. People don't do that if they're happy. If I'm happy, I'm staying home, playing golf, playing tennis. But if I'm unhappy, I'll spend 4 hours sitting in line to get rid of the bum that made me unhappy. And so that's the reason you're going to see the blue wave. In terms of the voting right, yeah, that's like I mean, the voting cases, they're all over the map. They do weird things here in North Carolina. You got to have a witness, and people forget to have the witness, and sign off on it. But again, they said that is illegal because it looks like they're deferring a lot to the states. Why we can't get voting right after 200 years boggles my mind. I used to walk in, you press the little button, walk out. Now all of a sudden it's a big deal. No one can figure out how to vote. Amazing.
Okay, Jeff.
Well, a couple of ideas. Number one, I think there's a foggy kind of I don't know, omnipresence around the business of the right to vote. At what point does voter responsibility, have to govern? At some point, in order to execute a vote, you have to do it in a proper way. And then at what point are we being so picky and making it so difficult to vote that we're really denying people the right? And I think that isn't susceptible to an originalist argument one way or the other, because the idea is that taking a vote ought to be as easy as, marking your check mark on a piece of paper next to the right candidate. I don't think the founders had thoughts about hanging chads and things like that. Speaking of which, Nick just talked about states, about the role of the states in all of this. You might be shocked, but I thought Bush versus Gore was wrongly decided. I thought the U.S. Supreme Court was wrong to wade into and overrule the Florida Supreme Court's ruling. Now, it turned out that it wasn't going to change the outcome anyway, but I believe that it was wrongly decided, that voting and certifying election results is a state responsibility. It doesn't belong to the federal government. Constitutionally, it's a state responsibility. So, in my opinion, the U.S. Supreme Court shouldn't be wading into it.
Okay, Adam, is it a state? Is it federal? Wow.
I agree in part with Jeff that this is something that really is the responsibility of the states. But regarding Bush versus Gore, I have a different opinion. The shenanigans that the Florida courts, particularly the Florida Supreme Court, engaged in, particularly in their second decision, when they disregarded McPherson versus Blacker and practically rewrote the election statute. Thank God that the Supreme Court came in Bush versus Gore by a 7-2 margin held that it violated the Equal Protection Clause, and then by a 5-4 margin held that it violated 3 U.S.C. Section 5. That case, I think the court should have gotten involved in, because the Florida Supreme Court had gone way too far. But generally, I agree with Jeff's proposition that this is a state matter, that, Supreme Court, the less they get involved, the better.
Okay. Professor Kent.
Yeah, where I see the federal role is, where you have voter fraud. I mean, a lot of these cases are based on things like, are the signatures way off? I mean, how do you determine whether that's the person who voted? I mean, we're never going to be re-canvassing everyone to make sure that was their ballot that was mailed in. So you have to have some kind of rules to determine legitimacy of a mailed-in ballot. Otherwise, voter harvesting can just swing an election by pure fraud if it's close enough. So I think the Supreme Court's going to end up making some of those decisions that are now being made at the Supreme Court of different states about what is an indicator of fraud and what isn't, and where do you draw the line?
Okay, well, Nick, don't you think there's going to be an incredible amount of pressure because various states are going to come up with conflicting decisions on where it is, and so it's going to end up, because there's a conflict among the states and the Supreme Court?
Yeah, but I see. I agree with Adam here that it's really up to the states. I mean, historically, it's the states that are supposed to do this and get this done. And even though I didn't like the results of Bush versus Gore, and it probably was wrong, legally decided, it did one thing that I thought was very practical. It got it over with so that we can move on. I mean, after a while, dude, you got to be very practical and you just got to move on. You don't want to spend the next 3 years in court trying to figure out who won an election. So ultimately, we just got to get things done. And yeah, right now, historically, it's with the states. If you think it should be the purview of the federal government, then do like Adam says, pass a bloody law and make a national law about this. You know, if you need to, pass a constitutional amendment. But if not, historically, it's states. And yeah, there's going to be discrepancies states to state, but that's not unusual. As we well know, laws differ from state to state and procedures differ. If you like to gamble, you go to Nevada. You don't go to Georgia, for example.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Right.
you're really saying that, listen, if one state interprets what is, just, and I'm just making up due process for
Sure.
purposes of voting. Or,
Wait, Adam doesn't believe in substantive due process, but you can continue, Counselor. You can continue with your fallacious due process argument. Go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you, Nick. I'm beautifully chastised. I appreciate it.
Of course.
So, fine. Okay. I don't even know how I recover from that. Listen, are you seriously saying that? I know you can't. That if New York decides that a ballot, an absentee ballot arriving late would result in disenfranchisement, and the state of North Carolina says it doesn't, that conflict between the states should not be equalized by the Supreme Court to say that there's one rule for the entire United States?
That's a great question. I'll defer to my esteemed counsel, my Professor Adam. Let him answer that question.
Well, this reminds me of what I tell my students all the time in class. I say, forget about the United States of America. I like the divided states of America. I like each state deciding what policies are best for its unique needs. So maybe abortion is legal in California and illegal in Alabama. That's a good thing. That's democracy at work. And I feel the same way about this issue. So the more divided we are in this regard, the better.
Jeff, what do you got?
I agree with everything Adam just said. I think when it comes to voting, I mean, there was even talk, say, back in 2000, when Bush versus Gore was decided, that the Florida legislature could step in and certify the election to one candidate or the other. Now, that would have been a little unprecedented, but it wouldn't have been unconstitutional or illegal, because Florida law determines who Florida's electoral votes are going to go to and how those are decided, how the electors are chosen. And so, I agree with Adam. Elections have always been a matter of state law. I don't think that the federal courts ought to be getting involved in how a particular state conducts its elections any more than the United States government ought to go down and tell Mexico how it has to hold elections. I think it's a matter of state sovereignty, and the federal government ought to stay out of it.
Okay, Professor Cantley, are you in line? Okay.
No. I'm more in line with. I want to apply Nick's theory of the blue wave will cure all, ills, kind of thing. It doesn't really matter what you think is right or wrong. It's just going to be a fact of mere power. You've got a Supreme Court that's going to have several different opportunities to shape who wins the election. I'm not saying that they're going to be overtly political about it, but I'm saying that those cases will percolate up there, and the court that's sitting there now will be the one that makes those decisions. So, including Barrett. So you may have a little bit, some of the wind knocked out of your blue wave sails on the way to the doctor. I'm not so sure that it's going to go exactly how you plan, but we'll see.
Okay, listen, this is going to be a first for us here, but on the Lawyer's Den. But this subject is really, really complicated, and it's going to get stickier as we go along. And obviously, we are going to try our best to make sure that it's as clear as possible. But it's going to get funny, and I'm not sure in which way it's going to get funny. But we never thought that we would coin the term "hanging Chad." Now, what do we think the term might be coming out of 2020? Do we think it's the naked ballot? Because these are just some options up there right now for the award so far. There's the naked ballot. There is the the invisible eyewitness on certain affidavits. What do we think? Just come up with some terms that we might be able to put into round robin. What do they call it when they a pool? We'll do a legal pool on the worst legal term to come out of what is soon to be a mess. Who wants to start?
Jeez. I'll go with distorted signatures.
Oh, okay. All right.
Distorted signatures. That's my play.
Distorted signatures. Okay. Nick, I know you're creative. What do you think?
I don't think the election's going to be close. So this calls for a hypothetical. This calls for a hypothetical, Your Honor. So I would dismiss the question. And when you want to withdraw the question, that's fine, because this election's going to be a landslide, a blue slide. And so the thing is, all these niceties, they won't have to count half the votes, because it's going to be over before halftime, baby. This is going to be worse than Clemson beating up poor little Georgia Tech. It's over by halftime.
Okay, so Nick has abstained in the most funny way. Okay, Adam, what do you have?
Well, I think we'll see pretty early on that Pennsylvania goes Trump's way after Biden's comment that he's going to essentially destroy the oil industry. But we might see a reincarnation of the butterfly ballot somewhere, where you see a spike from some random candidate because the voters were confused about who to vote for. That would be interesting. But as far as a blue wave, I still think Trump wins. I think he wins Florida. I think he wins Pennsylvania. I think he wins either Michigan or Wisconsin. I think he wins Arizona. And I just don't see the turnout war going in Biden's favor.
Okay, well, no, I'm going to get to Jeff. I'm going to come back around the horn. Jeff, because Adam just predicted the presidential race. But, yeah, Jeff, do you have a term? Because I had low expectations, as I do my entire life, which is why I don't have an LLM. Now, Jeff, I have low expectations. I just wanted something funny to come out of it. What term would you coin if we were going to coin a term for this election?
Well, the president keeps talking about finding ballots in the river, so I say river ballots.
River ballots.
All right. Well, now that Adam opened up the door, Nick, I'm putting you down as Biden, right?
It's just the numbers. I mean, you can believe whatever fantasy you want, but as we know, the thing is, the people that put money up, like Sasha Starr says, who heads our investment Sasa, the people who bet on it, which you can't do in the United States, but you can bet in London. If you really think you put $100,000 up on Trump, they'll give you back $260,000. That's how much the bettors don't believe in the fantasy of Trump. Okay, so put your money up if you believe Trump's going to win, but it ain't happening. As they say in Bond Stars, you're going to see the blue wave come crashing down. It'll be over by halftime. I don't even know if our American politics is going to last past 7:15.
No, please.
You're going to try to talk all day, but when he takes Texas, I don't know what else anybody's going to say.
Oh my God.
Biden takes Texas, it'll be over.
Okay, Beckett, hang on. Jeff, on the whole shebang, the big race, who are you picking, Trump or Biden?
Well, it's anybody's guess, really. I think, as they said back in 2016, Trump has to pull an inside straight. That means he has to take a whole slew of states in the upper Midwest. That would include, Wisconsin or Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, the Rust Belt states that he squeaked narrow victories out in 2016. He's got to be able to do the same thing again. Maybe even add Minnesota. He's got to be able to do that based on his arguments about China, about trade, about loss of jobs. And, he may be able to do that, particularly with Biden's comments about fossil fuels that Adam has been talking about just now. I think the big thing Trump has going for him is that Biden excites nobody. He seemed in the last debate like a weak, tired old man.
Yes.
I think nobody's showing up to Biden rallies and getting really excited. They just hate Trump. And if that hatred is strong enough to drive turnout, maybe Biden wins. But Trump has a very committed base. And from what I'm seeing, at least in the Rasmussen polls, it's really close.
Yeah.
I'll give Trump my narrow edge, but I think it's really anybody's guess. It's a jump ball.
Okay, Professor Cantley, and then we have to hand it over to Nick.
The
Professor?
only blue wave I'm predicting is Dodger blue tonight. Okay? No, it's a close as heck, but I still go with the inertia going to Trump.
Wow.
Curtailed by the Supreme Court on decision that cut back those blue wave ballots.
Okay. Well, I would venture my guess, except that, Nick, I think we're out of time, and this is your purview. Nick, you want to wrap it up?
Yes, it's going to be a disaster beyond biblical proportions for the people in the Bible Belt, baby. So the thing is, the people like Professor Adam, who sits in Georgia, when Georgia flips over to be blue, he's going to be blue in the face when he watches it happen. And all the Bible Belt, baby, they're going to be crying in their Bible Belt stew when they find everything is blue. And that's what's going to happen here and also on Election Day. So with that, I guess we got to wrap up, Bill. We're past the hour. So well, I thank everybody for coming to the Lawyer's Den, and we will see you all tomorrow.
As